Hi, welcome to my blog. My name's Kareen Lal. I am a cat and dog behaviourist and dog trainer. I own 4-4s, which is a dog walking and cat sitting company, so we look after pets in Woking, Guildford, Godalming, Hazelmere and Hindhead and the surrounding areas. And I like to try and make sure that we put up content regularly on our website. I thought I would get in the 21st century though, and rather than writing long blogs that are probably way too long for people to read, I would actually start to do a video blog. So the first one's all about toilet training in kittens, which is advice for breeders and also new pet owners. Obviously we're not too far away from Christmas now, so some people might be thinking about getting kittens for Christmas. I think often with toilet training problems you think it will be absolutely fine until it's not, so hopefully this will help give you fair warning and some advice on how you can make sure that toilet training goes really well. So why is that important? Well, inappropriate urination and defecation has been cited as a reason to give up cats in 7 to 8% of the cats in rescue homes, and that's not a US statistic, that's a UK one. So it really is important to get it right. Sorry for the noise, I have kittens at the moment and they are destroying the house. So with toilet training problems, it's a multifaceted issue. Poor early learning, which is the focus of this video today, is one part of that. So making sure that we get this right is really important. Also, another aspect to this issue can be stress. Cats very much start to develop toilet issues when they're stressed, and also undiagnosed medical and vet issues can also contribute to that. Kitten litter training isn't actually that difficult. It's quite simple provided you remember some key points. Cats are fastidious, they like to be clean, and we can use that to our advantage with litter training. It is not as difficult as puppies, thank God. So, stages of kitten toilet training. At birth they're unable to urinate or defecate without stimulation. So that stimulation actually comes from their mother, in that she licks their genitals and that stimulates them to wee and poo, and she eats it, which is lovely. The idea behind this is that it keeps the nest clean, so they're much less likely to attract predators by the smell of young kittens doing wees and poos all around the nest. So then around about 3 to 6 weeks they start to develop some sort of voluntary control over this, and they're able to do it without stimulation. It's quite a wide window, I know, there doesn't seem to be any particularly brilliant data on this, but essentially it tends to start with weeing unaided first, and then at some point pooing starts to kick in as well. Pooing's quite amusing when kittens learn to poo. It kind of shocks them and they actually squeak quite a lot, so if you start to see your young kitten crouching, doing sort of little squeezes and squeaking in anxiety, pop them on a litter tray, because they're probably about to have their first poo. And digging is something that they'll do quite innately when they're given access to litter. Digging, urinating, and then covering it over by scratching over it. It's an innate sort of motor pattern that accompanies urination and defecation for cats, and that is something that we can use to our advantage by popping down litter trays nice and early. Toilet training really in kittens, it's, as I said, it's not as difficult as puppies. It's really more about ensuring that they learn to use the litter tray and not the carpet. So really it's more about location and practicing in the right place. The more they practice in the right place, the more ingrained the behaviour will be. So toilet training starts with the breeder, and really litter trays should be available from around 3 weeks of age, so they get used to it and they get used to the idea of digging and scratching in there, and then hopefully urination and defecation in the litter tray is pretty much learned by themselves just by providing it. The type of litter that you use is really important. Firstly, safety. It's got to be safe for kittens to potentially eat, because at this stage they're starting to experiment and they are going to be eating pretty much everything. So something like chick crumb is ideal. It also clumps, so it makes it easy to scoop out these in a clump and get rid of it to keep them clean. A nice fine sandy litter is essential. You want it to be really as close to soil as possible to really encourage digging type behaviours. So nice fine sandy litter, chick crumb is perfect for kittens. Make sure that the kittens don't have access to too big an area. If they do, they are going to find somewhere that is far enough away from the litter tray to have an accident on. And ideally this area shouldn't be carpeted, if at all possible, because essentially all young animals like to wee on absorbent surfaces. Urine can actually sort of scald or burn the skin, so that's why they like to wee on something where it's going to get absorbed and not splash back up towards them. So ideally a non-carpeted area is great. If you haven't got a non-carpeted area though, even when you put your litter trays down, you're probably going to get some accidents that go over the side. So I got a roll of this when I have my kittens, and this is basically a plastic sheeting that you can roll on the carpet and it sticks to it. I think it's kind of sticky or staticky, and it sticks down to the carpet, and then you can put your litter trays on top, so you don't have any risk of them weeing over the side, the urine going into the carpet and then them starting to learn to wee on the carpet. Do keep the litter trays clean, because cats are fastidious. They want to be clean. They will not use a dirty litter tray, so you need to be cleaning out litter trays at least twice a day. If you leave a dirty litter tray, they will find somewhere much cleaner to make a mess. So make sure the litter trays are kept clean, and do clean them out regularly as well and replace the litter. Make sure that any accidents that you do have, because there will always be some accidents, something will go wrong, make sure that they are cleaned with either biological detergent that's been diluted and scrub it in, or an enzymatic spray. Do soak out as much of the urine as you can do first, so that it doesn't soak down into floorboards and concrete, and then really scrub it with either biological detergent or enzymatic spray. It needs to not be just clean for a human nose, but for a cat nose, which is 4 to 5 times stronger than a human nose. And if they smell urine in a carpet, they'll think, oh, this is a toilet, and they will go there again. So you must break down the actual components of urine, which need either enzymes or biological detergent to break down. And lastly, an absolute must, kittens shouldn't be disturbed while they're on litter trays. That sounds really silly to say, but if you've got children, it's really easy for them to run around and just spook a kitten who's in the early stages of toilet training, and then they associate that spooking with being on the litter tray and they go somewhere else, or they want to try and find somewhere else where they're not going to be scared. Or if you've got a litter tray that's in, say, a utility room, and suddenly the spin cycle of the washing machine comes on at the wrong timing. So really do consider where litter trays go. They should be somewhere that are fairly quiet, so that you minimise risk of the kittens being disturbed. So once the breeder's hopefully done all of this hard work, you have a toilet trained kitten, but then they're going to go on to their new homes. It's worth mentioning at this point, if the kittens aren't toilet trained when they go into their new home, this could be quite difficult for new owners. So it's really, really key that they're toilet trained before they go to their new home. But then the new owners have got to almost start again, because what was learned in one home needs to translate over to a new home where it's all scary, it's new, and they need to find the new locations of the litter trays. So ideally use the same litter as the breeder, so there is at least a smell connection with the old litter. And also make sure that things like the trays are the same, so don't automatically move over onto a covered litter tray or one of those lovely ones where the litter's in a piece of furniture and they kind of jump through a hole. They're lovely and great potentially for when they're older, but that is not going to be great for a kitten who's learning where the toilets are for the first time. So try and keep the house access limited as well until the kittens have learned where the litter trays are. That's really important. You want to make sure that you get as much practice going in the right place and not the wrong place. I don't know if you've ever tried to, everyone's had to hold on for a wee or a poo at some point when you've been really, really desperate. And then when you finally get to go, you feel really good. And it's actually an internal reward when you get to go. And where you go is then associated with that reward. And particularly for animals, you want them to be rewarded, get that pleasure from relieving their bowel and bladder in the right place. If they get that pleasure in the wrong place, then they will keep going back there, because that is sort of an innate learning process. So you want to make sure that you don't let them get to other places where there aren't litter trays, or where they're too far away from a litter tray that they haven't learned where it is. You need to make sure that they've got that they only have access to rooms where there are litter trays for now, and that they never get too far away from them. The golden rule when it comes to numbers of litter trays are 1 litter tray per cat in the household and 1 extra. This just means if there's any disagreements or squabbles between cats, then they can't do litter tray warfare. And also it just ensures, particularly with kittens, having a few extra sorry, my kitten's destroying the house. Having a few extra litter trays around just means that they're much less likely to get caught short. Again, it's really, really important to keep litter trays clean. They must be clean for the cats to use them. And if they're not using the litter tray, we need to ask why not. It could be that it's somewhere that's a bit too high traffic and they're getting spooked. It could be that the litter's changed. It could be that they got disturbed accidentally at one point. So ask yourself why they're not using the litter tray. There's no point getting annoyed at them if they were using them and they've stopped using them, or they haven't learned to use them yet and they've started learning to use carpet. Ask why they're doing that, don't beat them up for doing it, and definitely don't punish them for going in the wrong place. Go back to the points above, limit their access to a much smaller area, make sure that they've got no option but to use the litter tray. So finally, what happens if you had a litter trained kitten and it was all fine, and then it's changed and they're having accidents in the house? Well, this is a point at which you need to think, why not? What's changed? So this is never bad behaviour on the part of your cat, and it's very easy, particularly with toilet training problems, to get really, really frustrated and to get quite angry because it's gross and it's not hygienic. We all know this, and if you've got children in the house as well, it can actually freak you out quite a lot because there are bugs in cat poo in particular that can be pretty bad for children. So don't get angry, but ask yourself what has changed, because in almost all cases something has changed. Now, the first thing that I have to stress is that if you've suddenly got a toilet training problem, you have to go to your vet, because the chances are that either it is there's an underlying medical issue such as UTI, cats are quite prone to them, or they've got stressed, and often stress can then cause a UTI. So it's really, really, really important, if you suddenly get toilet training issues with the cat, unless it's a really obvious cause, you need to get to your vet to get them checked. And then really, we'll talk about this more in another blog, but essentially the biggest cause of toilet training problems developing in cats is stress. Second to medical issues, it's stress. So if your cat gets stressed, you may then start to get inappropriate urination and defecation. So we'll talk about that more in another vlog, but I hope that's been useful for you, and I will make sure that I record some more soon. If you've got any questions, do feel free to drop me an email and I'll try and get back to you, or do have a look on the COPE website if you're struggling. That's COPE, COAPE, where you can find some qualified cat behaviourists to help you out. Okay, thanks.